Sean Diddy Combs has spent a week behind bars. He's here inside MDC, where he's been since his arrest on Monday night on federal sex trafficking and other charges, to all of which he's pleaded not guilty. There's no VIP section, there is no concierge, only con men, killers, and kingpins.
About a month back, popular singer P Diddy fell into some big trouble. He received some serious accusations from the federal authorities, which landed him behind bars for nearly a month. And not just any jail, but one of the most notorious ones in the country. As a Grammy winner, how is P Diddy living any differently within those walls? And are those stories that he's scared for his life true? Could someone really want to harm or poison him? Well, let's find out. The fancy and extravagant life of Sean P. Diddy Combs, who's 54 years old, hit a roadblock on September 2024. A grand jury indicted him on several severe charges. The authorities arrested him in New York, accusing him of crimes like engaging in illegal activities, forcing people into prostitution, and many more. The 14-page document detailing the charges against Diddy brings up some strong points. They believe Diddy is guilty of things like forcing people into labor, kidnapping, starting fires, bribes, and preventing justice from taking its course.
The unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. Let me say a little bit more about the charges. The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways. As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines.
The document also mentions that Diddy often mistreated people around him, especially women. This mistreatment involved verbal, emotional, physical, and even physical abuse.
Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs, and that Combs hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair.
There's also the mention of his freak-off parties. These were explicit events that Diddy allegedly arranged and directed, where explicit performances took place. During these freak-offs, Diddy supposedly gave his victims substances to make them obedient, and then forced them to be with prostitutes. He often secretly recorded these incidents without the victims' consent or knowledge. Sadly, this isn't the first time we have heard such terrible claims about Diddy. Cassandra Ventura, a singer named Cassie, revealed these shocking details. She filed a suit last November. Cassie and Diddy had been dating for years. During their relationship, she says, Diddy caused her physical, emotional, and sensual harm.
We do want to warn you that it is very difficult and horrifying to watch. This is after CNN released the video showing Diddy attacking his ex-girlfriend Cassie in a hotel hallway in 2016. Diddy has now shared a video on social media taking responsibility. The security video showed Diddy punching, kicking, and shoving Cassie, even throwing a vase at her. Cassie sued Diddy in November over sexual, physical, and emotional abuse. The suit was settled the next day. Here's part of what Diddy said in his apology video.
Cassie's legal dispute found a resolution the day after it came to light. However, that wasn't quite the end of the story. Since then, a sequence of further lawsuits rolled in, all pointing fingers at Diddy. The sketchy behavior and unfair treatment he's accused of seem to be a recurring theme. And you thought things were cooling down? No. In October 2024, a lawyer from Houston named Tony Busby revealed his agenda. He intends to slam Diddy with 120 new lawsuits within a month. Now, these upcoming cases bring in fresh claims, such as grave physical mistreatment and abuse, forcing others into inappropriate actions, wrongful confinement, and spreading video recordings without consent. Shockingly, there are also suspicions of minors being abused, with one victim being as young as 9. If you are enjoying this video, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon for more exciting videos. When word got out, Mr. Busby's phone started ringing off the hook. He's had more than 12,000 calls from folks claiming to have been harmed by Diddy. But guess what? Diddy isn't the only one on the hot seat. Some other big-name celebrities might have had a role in these alleged incidents, as Busby suggested. Though some celebrities reportedly settled out of court to keep their names out of the headlines, others might not be so lucky to escape the limelight. As of now, Diddy is the only one facing charges, and that led to a stay at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. Not the best vacation spot. He pleaded not guilty and was denied bail twice, despite his team proposing a high bail sum of $50 million. They even promised to limit his travel and interactions with women. But the judges didn't think that was enough to ensure public safety or prevent witness manipulation. Despite setbacks, Diddy's legal squad hasn't given up and is gearing up for their third attempt at securing his release. Their argument is that the detention center doesn't exactly follow the style of the Diddy. With reports of violence, poor living conditions, overcrowding, and staffing issues, they argue it's not the place for Diddy. In fact, it's been so bad there that some individuals have lost their lives under distressing circumstances, while even the staff hasn't been immune from criminal charges. Diddy isn't the first famous visitor to MDC, the Metropolitan Detention Center. Before him, it was home to A.R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Sam Bankman-Fried, who's actually still living there. Bankman-Fried got in a ton of trouble on November 2023 when his company dealing with digital money, called FTX, went belly up. Both Bankman-Fried and Diddy are staying in a special part of MDC made for prisoners who need a little extra protection. That can include famous people like them or others who are part of ongoing investigations. When Diddy first came to MDC, people worried that he might hurt himself, so they kept an eye on him all day. They don't think he'll do anything like that, but they still check on him regularly. Dr. Dwayne Hendricks tells what Diddy's everyday life might be like in jail. He was in charge of MDC from 2013 to 2016. Before that, he worked in top-level roles for the U.S. Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Prisons.
So at some point, he may be able to go to a specialized general population unit, but I'll tell you, because there's so much fluidity with this case and all the different allegations, which align with someone like a Ghislaine Maxwell.
Many people have been discussing the conditions of life at MDC. Some, including Diddy's lawyer, have said it's very bad. Dr. Hendricks doesn't quite agree. He says that during his time there were definitely challenges. There were problems with keeping it clean and running it properly. However, later in his time there, he says things started to get better. The way they interact with people outside the prison, like our public defenders in the judicial districts of Eastern New York and Brooklyn, as well as Southern New York, has improved. Running a prison is hard work, and MDC has seen its fair share of problems. Despite these issues, the center has served as a home to some of the most infamous criminals, like terrorists and substance brokers. There will always be challenges, but they're doing their best to take care of their people and keep everyone safe. Over the years, some tragic incidents have transpired, involving suicides and murders. Even correctional officers have occasionally faced criminal charges. The question often asked is whether it is safe for the inmates. To be completely honest, yes. No matter where you look in the history of corrections and jail operations, you'll find accounts of suicides and homicides. And it's particularly distressing to realize that pretrial detention, when people are held for alleged crimes that have yet to be proven, can be the most volatile period for those incarcerated. The potential for suicidal thoughts or tendencies can be significant as these individuals struggle with the potential for several years behind bars. Both suicides and homicides, unfortunately, do occur in jails and prisons. However, the frequency isn't necessarily higher than any other facility holding thousands of inmates. P Diddy is a high-profile inmate. He was placed on suicide watch upon his arrival at MDC. Contrary to popular belief, placements on suicide watch are not done as a precaution. They're a response to very real concerns, whether they be verbal, written, or physical indicators of suicide risk. Think about an individual like Diddy, possibly with no prior criminal record, suddenly thrust from a life of luxury, complete with personal chefs and staff, to a restricted world measuring 6 feet by 8 feet.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm with a high boss. Chief Holuwa Sean Combs, Hola Diddy himself, aka Daddy Povey.
In a world where he would be alone for 23 hours a day, in handcuffs and escorted to medical treatments or recreation times, this drastic shift can take a significant mental toll. If there is any hint of a suicide risk, clinicians will place that individual on suicide watch straight away. While on suicide watch, the inmate would be given a smock for covering and a blanket. Depending on their risk history, they may or may not be given undergarments, including underwear and socks. So, in Diddy's case, it isn't surprising that he may have shown signs of suicidal ideation, given the serious charges he faced, coupled with his sudden loss of freedom, especially as a high-profile individual.
Sean Diddy Combs' ex-girlfriend Misa Hilton posted a compilation of short scenes from a raid inside the rapper's Los Angeles home. A law enforcement source told CNN the raid was connected to an ongoing sex trafficking investigation. Hilton uploaded the heavily edited footage on Instagram on April 3rd, criticising the, quote, overtly militarised force used against her son Justin and Combs' other son Christian, who were at the home when it was raided.
So, when Diddy was on suicide watch, it's not like he was in a typical jumpsuit or something similar. Instead, he was in a garment that was quite like a smock. Moreover, he wasn't allowed to have any other things in his cell, except maybe some food items that would be provided to him. As he was under 24 hours of watch, he definitely had a lot of visitors to his cell. These visitors, usually psychologists or clinicians, would stop by to check in on him and see how he was doing. They did this to keep an eye on his mood and feelings, checking in every couple of hours. If you are enjoying this video, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon for more exciting videos. Once the psychologist or clinician felt that Diddy was no longer a threat to himself, he was taken off suicide watch. Now, let's talk about another thing about Diddy's stay at MDC. He's in a protective care unit for his own safety. This is quite different from the general population. The protective care unit, also known as the special housing unit, has 2 types of detentions. One is administrative detention, and the other is disciplinary segregation. The latter is for those who have broken the institution's rules, like getting involved in a fight or any other actions against the institution's policies. This stays for a certain time period. Administrative detention is when someone is under investigation for a possible breach of the rules, or the person could be in protective custody because they fear for their life. This question probably would have been asked to him during his intake process.
How are you? You know how to make an entrance. It's always with sunglasses, and then you take them off.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I like it.
You like it?
I like it.
That's right. You know, I have a question for you.
I'll have an answer.
Do you know how many times I've been on this show?
I'm going to guess 20. How many?
27 times. 27.
Wow. Wow.
I'm lying.
Oh.
It was only 17 times, but after you said the 20, I felt like I was losing, but 17 times! I've been on the show 17 times!
It feels like 20.
It feels like 20.
Every time feels like 1 1/4, so it adds up to 20 because it keeps going. You're always entertaining. You always make me laugh. I never know what you're going to do, what you're going to say. What is your name?
Diddy was a high-profile arrest, and this arrest happened just a little time ago. Therefore, there may be other inmates in the prison who may or may not pose a threat to him. Crucially, they could even have ties to Diddy's alleged victims. He will need to check his legal case with his attorney, and inmates are allowed limited legal materials in their cell. However, it's vital to ensure that other inmates cannot access his cell and look at his legal documents. Each inmate can keep a certain amount of legal materials in their cell, and Diddy needs to sort through all his legal discoveries without any other inmates getting a peek at them. When it comes to administrative detention, there's certainly a handful of elements that factor in. More often than not, the organization tasked with overseeing such matters, acting under the authority of the United States Attorney General, has the obligation to ensure a secure and humane institution is provided. This obligation extends to taking whatever measures are necessary to uphold the safety of both the institution and those under its care. In cases like these, it's not unusual for someone to be held in administrative detention, even if it's not specifically within a special housing unit. Instead, they might be in a different part of the facility where space is available. Given that the East and West buildings in Brooklyn collectively offer over 1 million square feet, it's more than likely that's where he is.
I'm like looking at him and I'm seeing him as a baby.
Yes.
And I'm seeing his mother telling me like this, that, and I'm just like overwhelmed with just so much stuff. So please answer the questions because I'm just in love with the...
These could include the institution's leaders, security chiefs, medical and mental health professionals, and case managers or counselors particularly tasked with ensuring his visitation list is updated and any other needs for his stay are met. While there are various reasons why someone might be held in such a unit, in his case, it could be due to his high-profile nature and the potential risks associated with his transfer to a general population unit. Although he is not in immediate danger, the high-profile nature of his case, along with the sundry discoveries and additional information that may surface, is not a risk you'd want to take. Eventually, he may be transferred to a general population unit, likely a specialized one that houses individuals facing similar charges. This would happen once it's deemed necessary, and an assurance can be made that he would be safe in that environment. However, given the dynamic nature of this case and its various allegations, which bear resemblance to cases like that of Ghislaine Maxwell, adjustments may be needed. Notably, the overseeing agency has learned some hard lessons after the unfortunate incident involving Mr. Epstein at the MCC in New York.
Meanwhile, Trump goes to greet 3 new guests, among them the financier Jeffrey Epstein. More than a decade before his guilty plea on state prostitution charges.
Donald Trump knew the cameras were there. In the video, he makes a point to draw Epstein's attention to them. And the video captures Donald Trump and Epstein chatting while watching a group of women at the party dance. It's not an image that matches Trump's declaration that he was not a fan of.
Let's imagine the exact cell where Diddy is kept. Although you haven't set foot there, you'd probably get a pretty good idea from guessing, especially if you're familiar with MDC. It's about 6 by 8. For those of us who can't visualize it because we've never been inside, it would look something like this. There would be a classic bunk bed involving 2 flat mattresses, one for each bed, whether he has a bunkmate. Additionally, the room would include some basic furniture, a small desk, a chair, and a sink. Yes, a toilet too. There's usually a tiny mirror, not necessarily made of glass, but something for prisoners to get a glimpse of their reflection. Rumors have been floating around regarding Diddy's supposed VIP treatment. Does that mean he's receiving different meals or extended shower times compared to the other inmates? Maybe not. With thousands of inmates, meals are prepared much in advance. About 3 days, in fact. The meals are cooked in bulk and then packed and transported to the units in both the East and West sections. So chances are less that he's getting any special dietary treatment. There is a thing known as common fare, which is offered to non-meat eaters. It includes vegan and vegetarian options. But there are no special meals. Every jail adheres to one national menu. So what does a typical meal look like? Since today is Wednesday, he'd have what's famously known as the Burger Day lunch. This would include a burger, some fries, perhaps a small salad and fruit. If he's not a meat eater, he'd get something like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, along with some fruit or vegetables. It's surprising for people to see someone like Diddy switch from likely private chef to MDC prison food. There have been talks about him not eating much due to fears of his food being poisoned. Is that even possible? Technically, yes, but the likelihood is pretty slim. The meals are cooked 3 days in advance, and there's no label to identify who the meal is for. The inmates are trained by professionals to cook all these meals, which number thousands per day. From my experience, it's pretty rare to find inmates getting sick from the food, let alone the chance of being poisoned. As for the recent news about his initial arrival and the talk of him being possibly on substances or going through withdrawal, this could be seen as him literally being put on pause. Perhaps he is reflecting on the allegations against him. If he indeed is in a mental crisis, hopefully the trained professionals there would help him navigate through this difficult time, provided he's open to listening and engaging with them. Diddy's day usually starts in the evening, when the lights likely go off around 10 in the night. The following morning, he's up and about, but do note that he's subjected to a roll call a total of 5 times daily. These counts begin at midnight, followed by 1 at 3 in the morning and 5 in the morning. During weekends and holidays, there's an additional count at 10 in the morning. There's also a standard 4 in the afternoon count daily, then a final evening count sometime between 8 and 10 at night. The day officially begins with the lights turning on around 6 in the morning. He's served breakfast, and then he can engage with staff members and do his daily activities. When it comes to medication, if he has any, he'd have to get in line for his pills. Regardless of their medication status, everyone meets a medical clinician daily. He is also given an opportunity to shower, just like any other inmate. The rest of the day continues with various activities. He gets his lunch and has the chance to converse with the leadership team or those who were assigned to his enhanced operations. If he needs any writing materials for correspondence with his family, that's available too. He can also connect with his attorney through legal visits, in person, or via video calls. We also facilitate family meetings, possibly on a weekly basis, either through video visits or in-person visits in the visiting room. He'll likely get an hour for recreational time, and if there are any medical issues that require him to step out of the cell, then he'd get the chance to do so. However, at least 3 to 4 staff members accompany him whenever he steps out of the cell, such as for a court appearance. In such situations, he likely changes into a suit or casual clothes instead of his regular jumpsuit. The whole process of transporting him to the court involves careful planning and coordination to ensure everything runs smoothly. Imagine being in a big city jail like the Metropolitan Detention Center with so many fellow prisoners. Every day, a good number of them have to go to court. Let's say a particular inmate needs to be moved for his court appearance. They would take him from his usual spot to a place called the Receiving and Discharge Area. From there, he gets ready for his journey to the court. Are there special people responsible for taking Diddy to court? They arrive at the jail at a set time, take charge of the inmate, and drive him to the courthouse. Once there, he is kept in a specific area at the courthouse, where he gets the chance to change into different clothes. Maybe something a bit fancier for his court appearance. After spending some time at the courthouse, he is taken back to jail, entering through the Receiving and Discharge Area again. From there, he goes back to his usual spot inside the prison, which, in this case, happens to be in Brooklyn. In recent times, news about the alleged crimes of P Diddy has really thrown a spotlight on this detention center. All this information about how inmates are moved and what their day looks like is now becoming more familiar to regular people, too. The prison has a system in place that specifically caters to the needs of these prominent figures. This system was largely put in place following the unfortunate incident regarding Mr. Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell at MCC New York.
Sentenced today to 20 years in prison for sex trafficking minors. Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted last.
The process involves the inmate being placed in an administrative detention where they receive enhanced operations. They're always surrounded by a number of staff members, enabling a strict monitoring system to avoid any mishaps. As far as R. Kelly is concerned, he was also held in administrative detention for a certain time before being transferred to a slightly more generalized population. Yet, it still remains specialized to his needs. While at MDC Brooklyn, there were no issues during his time there until he was convicted and sent to his designated facility. On the other hand, if other high-profile celebrities or A-list stars are rumored to be implicated and potentially charged, they would be sent to MDC. This could pose quite a challenge, especially if these individuals are as well known as Sean Diddy Combs. This is mainly because MCC New York is not currently operational. This can cause logistical issues and result in the agency needing to think strategically about where these people would be kept. It would be essential for them to be close enough to their lawyers, particularly if they're hiring someone from the New York area. It would certainly present a unique set of challenges, as we know from the scenario of Maxwell not being arrested for her charges until after Mr. Epstein had passed away. Similarly, with R. Kelly, he didn't have any co-defendants, and currently neither does Sean Combs. Meanwhile, the team representing Diddy released a statement following his arrest, describing him as a music icon and self-made entrepreneur.
Attorneys for disgraced Chicago musician R. Kelly have filed a petition to the U.S. Supreme Court to review his conviction for federal sex crimes. Kelly was convicted in federal court in Chicago on 3 counts of producing child pornography and 3 counts of enticing a minor for sex. He is serving a 20-year sentence. Kelly was also convicted in New York for sex trafficking.
It emphasized his love for his family and his contributions to the upliftment of the Black community over the past 30 years. He was presented as not perfect, but not a criminal either. The statement ended on a positive and hopeful note, looking forward to clearing his name in a court of law. So, this is it, guys. What do you think will be next for Diddy at MDC Brooklyn? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stay updated on all the latest news and updates in this case. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.